The Great Pyramid of Giza, the sole surviving wonder of the ancient world, is perpetually shrouded in a myth as immense as its stone blocks. For over 2 millennia, the dominant narrative, perpetuated by Hollywood and common belief, has been one of countless enslaved Hebrews or other conquered peoples driven under the lash to erect a pharaoh's tomb. This image is not only incorrect, but does a profound disservice to the historical reality. The pyramids were not built by slaves. They were constructed by a rotating national workforce of respected, paid Egyptian laborers, skilled artisans, engineers, and seasonal workers who were housed, fed, and honored for their contribution to a state project that bound the kingdom together. This truth, revealed by late 20th century archaeology, transforms the pyramids from a symbol of oppressive power into one of coordinated social organization and national identity. The slave myth finds its earliest and most influential root in the writings of the Greek historian Herodotus, who visited Egypt around 450 BCE, nearly 2 millennia after the Great Pyramid was built. His account, filled with second-hand stories and exaggerated numbers, described a forced labor system of 100,000 men. This Greek perspective, framed by their own experiences with slavery and monumental construction, was later adopted and amplified by later historical traditions, including the biblical Book of Exodus, which conflated Egyptian monument building with Hebrew bondage. The sheer scale of the pyramids seemed, to outsiders, to demand an explanation of brutal, forced subjugation. This compelling but flawed narrative ossified into accepted fact, because it provided a simple, dramatic story for an achievement that otherwise defied easy understanding. The dismantling of this myth began not with a single discovery, but with a gradual, evidence-driven re-examination of the Giza Plateau itself. The real story was written in the desert sand to the south of the pyramids. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, archaeologists led by Zahi Hawass and Mark Lehner uncovered the lost city of the pyramid builders. This was not a shantytown for slaves, but a purpose-built, state-administered complex, complete with large communal bakeries, capable of producing thousands of loaves of bread daily, evidence of massive fish and meat processing, and organized barrack-style dormitories. The scale of food production alone indicates a highly planned logistical operation to feed a large, valued workforce. The discovery of this workers' village, which housed a permanent crew of skilled artisans and officials year-round, provided the first physical proof of the organized community behind the construction. Further, and perhaps more conclusive evidence came from the cemeteries associated with this village. 2 distinct burial grounds were found. One contained modest but proper shaft tombs for skilled laborers, where hieroglyphic inscriptions identified them as overseer of the side of the pyramid or overseer of the masonry. The other was a simpler cemetery for manual laborers. Crucially, analysis of the skeletons from both sites by physical anthropologists, like Dr. Hawass, revealed telling details. The bones showed signs of healed fractures and evidence of sophisticated medical interventions, such as amputations that had recovered. In a society reliant on brute slave labor, an injured worker would have been discarded, not meticulously cared for and allowed to heal. The presence of these healed injuries indicates a social contract. The state invested in the health and recovery of its workforce. The laborers were valuable assets, not disposable tools. Who were these workers? They were likely Fellahin Egyptian peasants who were recruited from villages across the Nile Valley during the Akhet, the annual inundation season when the fields were underwater and agricultural work was impossible. For a period of 3 to 4 months, these farmers would become part of a national service program. They were provided with food, shelter, beer, a standard nutritional staple, and, most importantly, payment. Records from other state projects, such as the royal tombs at Deir el-Medina, show workers were compensated with rations of grain, fish, vegetables, and beer, which functioned as a currency. This was a form of tax labor, a civic duty rendered to the state and the divine king, but it was compensated and temporary. Alongside these seasonal crews was a core of elite, permanent, skilled workers, stonemasons, carpenters, toolmakers, architects, and artists. These were the middle-class professionals of ancient Egypt, whose expertise commanded respect and better living conditions. The most humanizing evidence comes from the graffiti they left behind, not on the polished exterior, but on the great stone blocks in the pyramid's inner chambers and in the tombs of their supervisors. These casual inscriptions, written in red ochre, are crew names that reflect pride, camaraderie, and even humor. The gangs who moved the stones gave themselves bold, boastful titles like the Friends of Khufu, the Vigorous Gang, or the Enduring Gang. One of the most resonant discoveries is the name the Drunkards of Menkaure, found on blocks of the third Giza pyramid. This is not the mark of a broken, enslaved people. It is the spirited badge of a cohesive team, taking collective pride in their hard work, likely enjoyed with the beer rations provided by the state. These names reveal a workforce with identity and morale, working not just under compulsion, but with a sense of shared purpose. The organizational pyramid required to build the stone pyramid was as impressive as the construction itself. Egyptologists estimate a workforce of 20,000 to 30,000 at any one time, not the hundreds of thousands of Herodotus. This workforce was divided into highly structured units. A phyle was a division of maybe 1,000 men. These were split into zar, or gangs, which were further divided into smaller crews of perhaps 10 men, each with specific tasks. The quarries at Tura across the Nile, the copper tool workshops, the ramp builders, the stone haulers, the precise placement crews, all operated in a synchronized, hierarchical system managed by scribes and overseers who tracked tools, materials, and rations. This was not a chaotic mob, but a pre-industrial corporation, a model of administrative efficiency that mobilized and sustained a significant portion of the country's male population for a defined, sacred goal. Understanding this reality fundamentally changes the meaning of the pyramids. They were not vanity projects built on the backs of the oppressed. They were the ultimate national project of a newly unified kingdom, a mechanism to employ, feed, and unify the population during the off-season, while creating an eternal symbol of divine kingship and cosmic order. The work was undoubtedly backbreaking and dangerous, but it was performed by Egyptians for Egypt, under a social contract that provided compensation and care. The pyramids stand not as tombs of stone alone, but as testaments to what a coordinated, motivated society could achieve. They are the product of administrative genius, skilled craftsmanship, and the collective labor of citizens contributing to a monument that would ensure the prosperity of their land for eternity. The story of the paid pyramid builder is more impressive than the myth of the slave. It is the story of a civilization organizing itself on a staggering scale to achieve the impossible, a truth far more compelling than fiction.